Hey all you MOBA fans, welcome to a new episode of the Bearded Gamer Show. Now as always, I'm your host, the Bearded Gamer, Chris Arnone. Of course, it's time once again for a DOTA dosage. Now I'm going to talk first off, as we often do, about the recent content update. Well, this one was a big one. It brought three new characters into the fold, and all of them have gone straight into captain's mode. Now, we've noticed this recently. They've all been going straight into the competitive scene instead of, coming into the game, waiting a week, and then moving over. Seems maybe they're balancing the characters a little better before they introduce them to the game to begin with. So, first up this time, we have the Nyx Assassin. Okay, now this is a melee dire character, agility-based, that's a disabler and a nuker. Now, the abilities you get out of this one, first off, is Impale. Now, what this does is it throws up some rock spikes in a line. If it hits people, it throws them up in the air, and when they land, they take damage and they get stunned. So it's a nice, attack move, sort of the basic move. Next up is Mana Burn. Now this one's just nasty. Now what it does is it burns mana equal to a multiplier of the target's intelligence, and then it deals damage based on the mana you burn. So of course this is an ability that's really effective against casters, against intelligence characters. It's not going to do you a lot of good against things like, Tiny, who's, really just a tank kind of character. But against those casters, against those, heroes that really depend on magic, that's just nasty. And it's going to get worse the higher level they get, especially if they're pumping away at items that boost their intelligence for those intelligence characters. It's going to get nasty. So next up is the Spiked Carapace. Now what this does, you use it, and it will reflect the next attack you take from a player-controlled source. So that can even be like an illusion or a familiar or something like that. And then it stuns that player for a little while when they take it. So that could be really crazy if, that player is over here and its familiar's over here and they hit you and they're still going to get stunned from that thing, which is kind of weird, but it could work to your advantage. And then, of course, the ultimate for that one is Vendetta. So the Nyx Assassin, in this case, turns invisible and gains a pretty good speed bonus. And then if you break your attack while you're invisible, instead of like time running out, you get a massive bonus to damage. So it's just, very much assassin-like, obviously. So that's the Nyx Assassin. Next up is the Keeper of Light, not to be confused with Gandalf the White, or Gandalf the Grey for that matter, but kind of looks similar. Now this is a ranged, radiant intelligence character. Primarily it's a pusher, but you can also kind of see it as support, but really, very powerful, push the lane by yourself kind of character. Now, first ability is called Illuminate. Now what this does is it channels up a ball of energy, and this builds up the longer you let it go, and it deals damage and gives vision along a line. And of course, like I said, the more you hold this, the more you charge it, the more damage and the more vision it will give you when you finally fire it off. Next is Mana Leak. Now what you do, you target a player with this, and the target loses mana as they move. And if they lose all their mana because of this, they're stunned. So essentially you're telling someone, stay put, don't move, or you're going to lose all your mana. And if you lose all your mana, you're going to get stunned anyway. So that's a really tricky ability, and one you could really, very tactical, obviously. You hit a character who's in the middle of a big battle, they're faced with a couple of tough choices, especially if they're intelligence-based and they really need to use that mana. Next up is Chakra Magic, which, very easy support one. It restores mana to a target. Pretty simple, but very, very useful. Now finally, really cool but rather complex ultimate here, which is called Spirit Form. Now this turns the Keeper of Light into an illuminated form. Now while they're here, several different things happen. They almost shift into a different gear. If they use Illuminate, which is that ball of energy, a second spirit form actually does the channeling, so they can channel that energy while doing other things. They also get different abilities. First off, they get Recall. Now what this does is it teleports target-friendly hero to you. Now there's a short delay, and if that hero gets attacked, takes damage during that whole system, it gets interrupted. But it's not really that useful for saving a hero, but it could be really useful for on the front lines. Somebody just, respawned, boom, they're up there with you. So that seems to be really more what it's to be used for, is to help you in a fight rather than help them get out of a fight. And finally, the other ability they get during the spirit form is called Blinding Light. Now this sends a blinding flash in an area around you, and what that does is cause knockback and blinds enemies nearby so they all miss their attacks. So yeah, pretty useful ability right there. So that does it for Keeper of Light. Now finally, last character they added with this new content update is called Visage, or Visage if you prefer to Visage. There you get a look at it. This is a ranged, dire intelligence character that's a support, a nuker, and a ganker. Pretty versatile, but very difficult to use character. Now, first off, gets Grave Chill. That's the first ability. Now, what this does is it drains a unit's attack speed and movement, and you gain what was drained out of them. So you get really fast and attack really fast by draining it from someone else. So that could definitely sort of turn the tables against someone real quick, especially if you're up against somebody like, oh, I don't know, a Drow Ranger, and you take away their ability to move fast and attack fast, and you get that, you could chase people down with that ability. Next up is Soul Assumption. Now this gets a bit complicated. Now what this does is it damages a target based on soul charges. Now you get soul charges based on the damage taken by heroes in your general vicinity. So this is really useful if you're in a big group battle with several of your teammates. As they take damage, you gain soul charges and then throw it out against a target. Very powerful, but quirky, difficult to use. You gotta use your strategy on that one. Next up is the Gravekeeper's Cloak. Now this is crazy handy and really allows Visage to absorb a lot of damage in a fight. Now it creates a layered barrier that protects from magical and physical damage. Now it's 100% protection. But what it does is each time the player is damaged, doesn't matter if it's 2 damage or 1,000 damage, a layer is peeled off. And there can be up to 4 layers of this total when you've got it maxed out. And these layers do regenerate over time. So essentially it's negating a certain number of strikes, no matter how powerful or weak they are. So it could be really useful for farming or jungling. But tell you what, you have that thing fully built up going into a fight, you could potentially absorb some really big hits, especially if you use it right before some really powerful skills. So the last one, the ultimate for Visage, is Summon Familiars. Now this summons 2 familiars, always 2 familiars, and if you summon others, it'll just destroy the previous one, so you can only get 2. Now, these have 7 attack charges that have very high power. So every time they attack, it uses an attack charge. And those charges recover about every 15 seconds. They also have a stone form. So you lock them into stone form, they become invulnerable, they get all their charges back, and they will quickly replenish their health. Now you want to use this a lot. For one, you want to give them that attack bonus, but also, if they're killed, they yield up a very high bounty to the player that killed it. So they're quickly going to become targets. So they deal damage, but they're prime targets. So it's a lot of micromanagement involved to properly use these familiars in a fight. So those are the 3 new characters added to Dota 2 during this past content update. And of course, there were some other updates that came with that. For one, there's a cooldown period between declining matches or abandoning matches. So once again, they're just trying to punish players for abandoning matches. It's still happening in the bot matches, I tell you, even though they're getting abandons now, but they're really trying to help with that. And of course, some other important stuff, there's a new import wearable option that was added to the workshop. So this will help you compile, validate, and preview a model before you upload it. And upon upload and your submission, it'll actually package the files into a format that makes it easier for Valve and IceFrog to then put those in the game. And lastly, of course, there's numerous small tweaks. Now, a lot of these have been to the bot AI or the bot desires. So you should really have seen a pretty dramatic overhaul in how the bots are behaving if you've been playing bot matches since they instituted this new content update. And of course, you can head over to the Dota 2 changelog to see just the litany of updates they made. In fact, they made a little hotfix a couple days after the major update that they always do every week. So that about does it for this Dota Dosage. Be sure to check out my live streams. I try to do them at least a couple times a week. Playing Dota 2, the Bearded Noob learns Dota. What characters am I going to play this week? I'm not quite sure. Still debating if I go back to Nature's Prophet or try somebody else new. But I really like Nature's Prophet. Anyway, so check that out at Twitch TV/Bearded Gamer Show. We'll see you guys next time.